The first thing I want to do is thank you for clicking on this English lesson. There are a lot of amazing English teachers on YouTube, and you chose me. That means a lot. The next thing I would like to do is tell you what this English lesson is going to be about. We are going to take a look at a news clip in English. I have slowed it down a little bit and I have put the words on the screen. This will help you with your English reading and your English listening at the same time. But of course, they use difficult English vocabulary, English idioms, English phrasal verbs. Some you might see on the IELTS or TOEFL exam. But don't worry, after I play the clip, I will come back on here and teach you all of the difficult words. The news clip we will watch together is about the country of Iran trying to assassinate President-elect Donald Trump. They are mad because when he was in office before, he killed one of their high-ranking officials. They want revenge. In the second part of the news clip, we will talk about some of his political appointees. Don't worry, if you don't know what that term means, I will explain it later. Let's watch a portion of the news clip and then I will come back and teach you some of those difficult words.
The Justice Department disclosed an Iranian murder-for-hire plot to kill President-elect Donald Trump. The DOJ announced charges against 3 men. 2 are in federal custody in New York. The third suspect is believed to be in Iran.
The first word that might be difficult in that news clip is disclosed. For each of these terms, I will have a picture, I will have the official definition, and then I will use that term in a sentence. Disclosed means to make known or reveal information. So something was secret at one time and now it has become known. Take a look at that picture. It looks like the police are giving a news conference. Maybe they found some information and now they want the public to know about it. Here is a sentence using disclosed. The police disclosed details about the investigation. In the news clip, they said that Iran tried to have some murder for hire against President Trump. What does that mean? Well, hire you might hear when talking about jobs. Maybe you get hired for a job. The definition: a crime where someone pays another person to kill someone. That's what we mean when we say murder, killing another person. The criminal was arrested for planning a murder for hire.
The Justice Department disclosed an Iranian murder-for-hire plot to kill President-elect Donald Trump. The DOJ announced charges against 3 men. 2 are in federal custody in New York. The third suspect is believed to be in Iran.
DOJ. We love to use acronyms in English. Department of Justice, or you may see DOJ. D, Department of O, Justice, J. And that is the U.S. government department responsible for enforcing the law. The DOJ announced new measures to fight crime. It gets a little complicated because when President-elect Trump wasn't president, the Department of Justice actually brought charges against President Trump. Yeah, we won't get into it in this English lesson, but let's just say it's pretty complicated. Now that Trump will become president, most of those charges will probably be dropped. Federal custody, 2 words that might be difficult there. Being held by the national government, usually in jail. So if somebody is in custody, that means the police have them and they are not letting them go. Federal is another way to say like national. We have federal prisons, we have state prisons, we have city prisons, probably called jails. So this is for the most serious crimes, federal custody. And if you take a look at that picture, the person is in handcuffs. We would say that person is in handcuffs. It looks like they are being taken to jail. In the news clip, they also use the word deter. Deter means to discourage or prevent someone from doing something. Laws deter people from committing crimes. Take a look at that sentence below. Tough laws are in place to deter illegal activities. In the picture, we have something a little bit different. I asked AI to create an image of a person skydiving, and this is what they came up with. This is what they designed. I'm not sure why the man has 4 legs, but let's say this man is scared of heights. He gets scared when he is at the top of a really tall building. Well, he did not let his fear of heights deter him from trying to skydive. When you skydive, you jump from a plane and hopefully you have a parachute. That's that big umbrella thing that will make you not fall as fast.
The Justice Department disclosed an Iranian murder for hire plot to kill President-elect Donald Trump. The DOJ announced charges against 3 men. 2 are in federal custody in New York. The third suspect is believed to be in Iran. The president-elect's team said it is aware of the plot and that nothing will deter Trump from returning to the White House. Following its historic pick for chief of staff, the president-elect is moving quickly to assemble his new administration ahead of Inauguration Day.
Let's talk about what a chief of staff is. That is an important official who manages who can see the president. They are like the president's best friend. They look out for them. They schedule meetings for them. The president is very busy, so often they keep away distractions, things that will prevent the president from doing their job. Let's use it in a sentence. The president's chief of staff organizes daily meetings. And in the picture is the current chief of staff under President Biden. His name is Jeff Zients. President Biden's chief of staff is Jeff Zients. I wouldn't worry too much about him. He will only be chief of staff for another couple months. There will be a new chief of staff when President Trump takes over. Her name is Susie Wiles, and she will be the first ever woman to become chief of staff. Who is she? She was in charge of Donald Trump's 2024 campaign and was chosen as his chief of staff. Susie Wiles will help lead the new administration.
Following its historic pick for chief of staff, the president-elect is moving quickly to assemble his new administration ahead of Inauguration Day.
Assemble. We have a verb here, and it means to gather people or things together. The team will assemble at 9 a.m. for the meeting. It looks like this person bought some furniture, who knows, maybe from IKEA, and they are now assembling the parts. The phrasal verb put together is often used in place of assemble.
Following its historic pick for chief of staff, the president-elect is moving quickly to assemble his new administration ahead of Inauguration Day. Willie James Inman is in Washington with a whole lot more. Good morning, Willie.
Hey there, Michelle. Good morning to you. While President-elect Trump is working on putting together his White House team, Justice Department officials announced charges in connection to an Iranian plot to assassinate the president-elect and other Americans living in the U.S.
Court documents reveal an alleged scheme backed by unnamed Iranian Revolutionary Guard officials to target and kill Americans, including President-elect Trump.
Scheme is next. Take a look at the women in that picture. It looks like they are up to something. It looks like they are planning something. A scheme is a secret plan, often dishonest, so not truthful, to achieve something, to get something. The authorities uncovered a scheme to commit fraud. Fraud is when you try to do something illegal. Maybe you pretend to be somebody you are not. The Iranian National Guard, that is a branch of Iran's military established to protect the country's Islamic system. Iranian is the adjective we use to describe something from Iran, and Islamic is the adjective we use to describe something that is from Islam. The people are described as Muslim. The Revolutionary Guard was involved in recent military exercises.
Justice Department officials announced charges in connection to an Iranian plot to assassinate the president-elect and other Americans living in the U.S.
Court documents reveal an alleged scheme backed by unnamed Iranian Revolutionary Guard officials to target and kill Americans, including President-elect Trump. The documents allege Farhad Shakari was tasked with working on a plan to kill Trump, but he claims he did not come up with the plan. Prosecutors say Shakari also worked with two New York-based men.
Based. This is another way to say where something is located. Could be a person. The official definition: located or operating from a specific place. The U.S. government is based in Washington, D.C. Maybe you have heard of the company Tesla. It is owned by Elon Musk, and it is based in Austin, Texas.
The documents allege Farhad Shakari was tasked with working on a plan to kill Trump, but he claims he did not come up with the plan. Prosecutors say Shakari also worked with two New York-based men in a plot to kill an Iranian critic. And while Shakari is still at large and assumed to be in Iran, documents show the weapons the two men here had acquired.
At large has a couple meanings in English, but in the news report, it means not captured or free. The suspect is still at large. This is the opposite of in custody. Really quickly, if I could ask you for a favor, do you mind hitting that like button if you are learning English? It really helps other people find the channel. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe so you never miss another English lesson. In the news report, they mentioned 2 of the 3 suspects have been captured, but one is still at large. Acquired, that means obtained or gained possession of something. Oh, look at this. It looks like a woman has just acquired her U.S. passport. I don't know if you have ever acquired or obtained a U.S. passport, but it does take quite a lot of work and it takes quite a bit of money. The passports in the United States are good for 10 years if you are an adult. I think if you are under 18, they are only good for 5 years, but they are a little cheaper. She acquired a new skill during the course. Hopefully right now you are acquiring new English words with this English lesson. Let's read a sentence about acquiring English with the words right on the screen so that you can improve your English reading and your English listening. I hope this English lesson is helping you acquire more useful vocabulary. I used obtained in the definition, but I just want you to know the English words acquire and obtain are often used as synonyms. But of course, nothing is easy when it comes to English. There are times when they aren't synonyms.
Prosecutors say Shakari also worked with two New York-based men in a plot to kill an Iranian critic. And while Shakari is still at large and assumed to be in Iran, documents show the weapons the two men here had acquired. Meanwhile, in Mar-a-Lago, President-elect Trump made his first pick for a top spot in his White House, tapping campaign manager Susie Wiles to serve as his chief of staff.
Mar-a-Lago, that is the resort in Florida owned by Donald Trump. When he wants a break from the White House, he often goes to Mar-a-Lago. President-elect Trump held a press conference at Mar-a-Lago.
Meanwhile, in Mar-a-Lago, President-elect Trump made his first pick for a top spot in his White House, tapping campaign manager Susie Wiles to serve as his chief of staff. She would be the first woman to serve in the position.
Susie likes to stay in the background. She's not in the background.
As Trump allies jockey for key White House and cabinet positions, some top names are emerging.
Stay in the background. That means to remain unnoticed or not take an important role. During that speech, President-elect Trump said Susie Wiles likes to stay in the background, but he brought her up on stage and she did look a little nervous. It looks like the man in the front of the picture likes to stay in the background. If you look in the back of the picture, there is a meeting going on, but he is not that close to the other people at the table. Let's look at that sentence. He prefers to stay in the background during meetings. Jockey can be a little difficult. You can use it as a verb or you can use it as a noun. We will talk about both. As a verb, it means to compete or struggle for an advantage or position. Several candidates are jockeying for the top job. Let's look at this picture. It looks like there are some seals on a rock, and maybe they are jockeying for the best position on the rock. Maybe it's a place where the rock gets the most sun. How about in sports? We have two different ways. Let's look at the verb. The soccer players were jockeying for control of the ball. But it can also be a noun. A jockey is someone who races horses. In the picture, that jockey is dressed in yellow and white.
Meanwhile, in Mar-a-Lago, President-elect Trump made his first pick for a top spot in his White House, tapping campaign manager Susie Wiles to serve as his chief of staff. She would be the first woman to serve in the position.
Susie likes to stay in the background. She's not in the background.
As Trump allies jockey for key White House and cabinet positions, some top names are emerging. Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty is being considered for Secretary of State, along with former Ambassador to Germany Rick Grinnell and Florida Senator Marco Rubio.
If you saw the last English lesson I did about Kamala Harris conceding the election, I mentioned the presidential cabinet. In the future, I might do an entire English lesson about the presidential cabinet. These are very important people to the president and also to the people of the United States. But they talk about it in the newscast, so let's talk about it briefly here. The president, when they get their new job, they have to appoint over 4,000 people to new government jobs, and the presidential cabinet is just a few of those jobs. The presidential cabinet is a group of advisors, those are people who offer advice or helpers, chosen by the president to lead important government departments. The president announced his new cabinet members. That is an image I used, created by AI. Please don't count the number of people around the table, but there are 15 members of the president's cabinet, and we will talk about a couple of the most important ones right here. Secretary of State, super important. The Secretary of State is the U.S. official responsible for foreign affairs. So they deal with a lot of leaders from other countries. The Secretary of State met with international leaders.
As Trump allies jockey for key White House and cabinet positions, some top names are emerging. Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty is being considered for Secretary of State, along with former Ambassador to Germany Rick Grinnell and Florida Senator Marco Rubio. For Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent is seen as Trump's top pick, with former U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer also being considered.
Treasury Secretary. Anytime you hear Treasury, start thinking about money. Let's get the official definition. The U.S. official responsible for the country's money matters. Everything that deals with the country's money. The Treasury Secretary discussed the new budget plan for the upcoming year. We have a long one here, but don't worry. It's exactly what it sounds like. The Department of Health and Human Services. They are concerned about Americans' health. It's the U.S. government department focused on health and welfare, which is another way to say how people are doing. Their mental health, their physical health. The Department of Health and Human Services launched a new health plan for healthier school lunches. You can imagine if students are going to school and they are being served gross, unhealthy food at lunch, That's not good for the United States. We want our students to be healthy. We want them to be fed good meals.
As Trump allies jockey for key White House and cabinet positions, some top names are emerging. Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty is being considered for Secretary of State, along with former Ambassador to Germany Rick Grinnell and Florida Senator Marco Rubio. For Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent is seen as Trump's top pick, with former U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer also being considered. As for Chief of the Department of Health and Human Services, allies of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. have floated his name, and though Kennedy is scheduled to meet with Trump next week, it is unclear if he will have a role in the new administration.
Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is also being considered to lead the Department of Defense. Now, these are just some of the names President-elect Trump is considering for his administration, and no final decisions have been made, but Trump is listening to those around him and his team as his team moves quickly to fill key positions.
They also mentioned floated his name. You might think of floating when it comes to water, but this is different. Suggested someone for a position or role. You can imagine in this picture, they are having a conversation that goes something like this. Oh yeah, that person would be a good fit for that position. We should hire them. Well, what about this person? They floated his name as a potential candidate for the position. Potential. That means like they have a good chance. They might be really good at doing something. The Department of Defense. This is almost like the opposite of the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State meets with foreign countries. The Secretary of Defense is all about defending the United States. Sometimes they work together. The Department of Defense is the U.S. government department responsible for military forces and national security, keeping the country safe. The Department of Defense announced new defense strategies to protect the country. Congratulations, you made it to the end of another English lesson. If this lesson was difficult, I encourage you to watch it again, maybe 2 more times. There is a lot of information packed into a short amount of time. But if you're looking for a new challenge, right down there is an English lesson I did about Kamala Harris admitting she lost the race. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.